Hey friends, this is Mudit here from Remax and I work as a realtor in the GTA region. Today I would be discussing about why pricing is the most important element when a seller decides to list a home on the market. Let's get started. There is a checklist of items which one needs to take care before listing a property on a listing service like MLS and on market. Pricing is right at the top of that list and we will discuss why it is like that. When a property goes on a listing service like MLS, the initial 8 to 10 days, or if you will 2 weeks, are most important, as that is the time when property gains maximum traction. People are viewing on the property, both the buyer community as well as the broker community working with buyers. As and when property gets old on the inventory, the listing becomes stale, and the newer properties which are becoming active on the inventory, they take precedence over our property which is now stale on the listing service. So if our price is not justified, our listing doesn't gain that traction and that exposure which we can expect otherwise in the initial 2 weeks period, 2 weeks time frame of our property. Secondly, whenever brokers are working with their buyers or buyers themselves, they're always working on a budget, on a set budget. So to illustrate this point better, let me take an example. Suppose a buyer has a budget of 500,000 and fair value of our property is coming at 490k. However, we decide to list and pitch our property in the market at 550k. Now there is a buyer, based on his or her lending qualification, they have a budget of 500k. Now these buyers will, what we have done after pegging our property at 550k is that we have essentially filtered out these buyers who were otherwise suitable for our property and they were qualifying to buy our property. Just by pegging our property high at 550k, we have devoid these buyers of having even look at the property. So these buyers will not get exposed to our property because our property is way higher than their budget. Slowly as you move forward, the property becomes stale on the listing service, and the buyers who come to see our property at best will use our property to look at other properties which are pegged at 550k, around that price point, and which have features in terms of their location, their age, their property type, which are comparable and justified for that price point. So they will look at our property, see value proposition in those properties which are pegged fairly at 550 price point, and they will buy those properties. The offers will translate in those properties. As a realtor, the main aim what we have is to get maximum footfalls in the property and then translate those footfalls into rational and justifiable offers. All of that cannot happen if we put or if we peg our property higher, way higher than the market value of the property. Lastly, you don't want to put lower than the fair market value of the property in the market, because in that scenario, certainly property will sell fast. However, you will lose thousands of dollars which otherwise you would have received if you would have pegged it fairly. So the process of determining the fair market value of the property is called comparative market analysis. So that can be done by a skilled broker or a realtor, where essentially what they do is they will take the subject property and they will find out similar specification properties as far as age, property type and location is concerned, because of it's the same area. They will find out similar specification properties around half kilometer to 1 kilometer radius of that property, and then they will do plus and minus adjustments for features which are additional in the subject property or which are missing in the subject property when compared point by point to the comparables which are identified for the analysis. When you do this exercise very objectively, at the end you will get the fair market value of the property. And again, the properties which are seen are the properties which are sold very recently in last 30 days to 45 days in the market. So always the CMA or the comparative market analysis is as of date. It will change after 10 days. It might change after 1 month based on how market is faring. Now, when we have arrived at and we understand about the fair market value of the property, in a nutshell, there are three pricing strategies when you decide to pitch it in the market. The first strategy is where you pitch it under the fair market value of the property. This strategy only works in a seller oriented market where the inventory is too low and demand is very high. The days on market of a properties is very less. Because of that, properties are churning out faster, they are cycling very fast. In those kind of markets, pegging the property in the market at lower than the fair market value of the property will entertain many prospective buyers to put an offer for a property when you set an offer date, and then inherent competition between the buyers will end up in you getting more often than not higher than the fair market value of the property. The disclaimer is that this strategy by far only works in the situations when it's a seller's market and the inventory is too tightened. The second strategy is pitching it right at the fair market value of the property, just having a little bit cushion in there, a little bit buffer in the price so that it helps you in negotiation. The best advantage of putting it at the fair market value is that your property will gain maximum exposure to the right set of buyers who have the budget and qualification to put an offer for your property, and the probability of your property selling way smoothly will be much higher than otherwise. This strategy by far is the best strategy, and the best part of this one is that it is not at all dependent on the market, be it seller's market, buyer's market, or neutral market or a balanced market. This strategy works all the time. You peg it right at the fair market value with a little bit of cushion or buffer built into the price. The third strategy is pricing it way above the fair market value of the property. This should be adopted only for properties which have a wow factor. By saying wow factor, I mean to say the properties which either have a premium lot, a ravine lot, or a lake view or a pond view, or the properties which have a royal curb appeal. When you enter the property from outside inside, it has an inside. When you go into the property, it has inherent upgrades, all the exceptional features and upgrades which a property should have, this property has. For those kind of properties where you enter the property and you say wow, so those are the properties where you can peg it higher than the market value. That is justified because you have so many upgrades which another property might not have with similar age, location and specifications. However, this strategy should be only adopted when timing is on your side. That is, when you are not rushed for doing a sale, or you are not depending on your sale to close another transaction or another buy if you have committed. As long as you are not pressed for time, this strategy might work. And again, in this strategy, you should be ready to be on market for relatively longer period, because you might need to stay in market to get that appropriate buyer prospect who needs those upgrades and who sees value in all those upgrades which your property has. The other advantage of this third strategy is that you have lot of negotiation room built right into the price. You can shave off some amount and still you are getting more than the fair value of the property. Now, after discussing all these three strategies, the best one to me, my recommendation would be always go for the second strategy, where you peg it right at the fair value of the property with a little bit of cushion in there so that you can negotiate if someone does. Thanks so much for watching this and wish you an awesome day ahead. Bye.